Oh, Dokkan, Dokkan. What's going on? My name is Kingdom. It's your king here, and your king is not too happy right now. I'm not gonna lie to you. As you see, we got Dokkan pulled up, the Dokkan official wiki, that is, and we also have Gohan stats pulled up. Now, not eventually. Earlier, I had a video planned yesterday that was scheduled, and it was just me giving my thoughts on the units. Wasn't really breaking them down, just a casual discussion on what I thought about the units and what I thought was who I thought was better, and where I saw the game going after looking at these units. But I had to scrap it because a few hours later we ended up getting the official release of it, because before all we had was the leaks courtesy of Team Dokkaner. We got the official leaks, and things are even worse than what they were at first. So as you can see, got Gohan pulled up. We already know how things are with Gohan. Nothing changed. He's still just as amazing, yet extremely restricted, and that restriction keeps him from being as godly as he could be. Now when we go back and then we hit up Cell, at first Cell seemed like the go-to, that being that his turn restriction to transform was only 3 turns and only having 1 enemy, or that's what we thought. Turns out that his transformation, or not actually, his transformation mechanic is actually a lot more restricted than we thought. He has to be below 30%. 30% to transform. Now I don't know if you guys know, but 30% is a little bit low. Just a little bit. I don't think you guys can read all this because kanji's too low, but I'm not really trying to show the actual kanji or whatever, because I can't read it anyways, and I assume most of y'all can't read it. But the point is, he's ended up being even more restricted than the Gohan is, because you're never going to get him to be below 30%. And in most cases where you are able to get to 30% using a decent enough team, you're like playing a gamble, because 30% HP, that's like a good super attack from a not as defensive unit. And assuming you're not a whale, like you just chilling at 30% trying to get like 1 unit to transform, that's really dangerous. So it's like you gotta risk losing the event or whatever just to get 1 unit to transform, and that's not ideal. Come on, Dokkan, why'd you do us like this? Now, all hope is not lost. We did have somewhat of a solution, and I think it was brought up by the homies Talon and Goresh and The Truth and all the other big guys up there. They all had the idea to come up with a basic copy and paste sentence in Japanese, just asking politely if they could review the units and change them, change their restrictions at least a little bit, so they're not as hard to transform. And I think most of us can agree that we don't mind if y'all even like nerf the transformation a tiny bit, just so that we can see him more often. Like, what we wanted from this was to see Gohan transform. With this celebration, all we're ever going to see is Super Saiyan 1 Gohan and perfect form Cell. That's not what we want at all. So we got all the super attacks here. We're not here to watch that, but looking at it, I mean, if I were to give my thoughts, I'm a lot more disappointed. I'm not as hyped as I was. I'm still extremely hyped because I'm very toxic and I like seeing the smoke and all this. So I'm here for all the smoke. I want to see what happens to the community, and I'm excited to see how we react if they don't change, and I'm excited to see if they do change the units restrictions at all. Because if you look down here, which one of you is who I want? If we look down at Gohan's post, everybody, and I mean everybody, is saying the same thing. Like, we could just keep scrolling forever and ever. Even the Japanese player base are also banding in and saying the same things. But if I were to take a guess and say if it's possible at all that they do change anything, I'd say that it's possible. I don't know how possible, but I definitely will say that it's a thing that could happen, because it did happen once. We all talked about back when it happened, when the 120 leagues were being released and physical Gotenks was released. He ended up being a lot worse on paper when you look at him compared to the Tech Gotenks at the time, which back then it was like, these are the 120 leagues. These guys are supposed to be head and shoulders above everything, and this is our physical variant. We've been waiting on them. Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, what happened? And I mean, we were upset too, the global player base, but the people that are from Japan, they all complained, and once Akatsuki or Bamco saw it, they decided to scrap the craziness that was on the physical Gotenks. I think his ki multiplier was lower. I think he also like hurt. He also hurt himself after super attacking like 10%. I don't remember what his passive was. That was a long time ago, and Dokkan was a very different place back then. But I do remember the change and seeing everybody's reactions to it. So it's definitely possible. If you look back at that and you look at this, it's definitely possible. I don't know what, like, how, like, what the percentages is. What I think, like, is an 80% chance. I don't know. It could be hit or miss. I will say that back when we all complained about Gotenks, it was nowhere near this serious. Like, it was nowhere near this many people talking about it. And it's not just this post. They're all saying it on everything. They're saying it on the Super Attack page. They're saying it on his post. They're saying it on Cell's posts about Gohan. They're talking about Gohan on Cell's posts. They're also talking about Cell as well, because Cell also needs to be changed as well after looking at his transformation conditions. They just messed up so big, and I don't understand how they could do that. Not only are the Cell and Gohan's restrictions crazy, but they did a flip-flop and made Android 16 intelligence, so he can't be run on Gohan's team. And they made the damn Cell Juniors AGL, so he can't be run on Cell's team. Well, actually he can be, since Cell is Cell socket, so he can still be ran on the team. But it's clear that they did that on purpose. I don't know what was going through their heads when they did that. I don't know if it was an accident, like they were in the office, they were tired and, you know, overworked or whatever, and they just typed in whatever and just put it up there. I don't know how they could mess up this bad, but this really just ain't it, Dokkan. This ain't it. And he's a good unit when you look at the passive, but like, one, he's not in the Kamehameha category, and two, he can't be run as on the sub lead as well, since he's not AGL. But like everything he does, like they literally in the passive, you can clearly tell they want you to run him with Gohan. Look at me circle around this like I'm actually reading this shit. But if you don't know what he does, he actually gets 100 in attack and defense, yada yada. I can't read this, but I know what he does. He gives himself an extra 100%, and he gives all allies key plus 3 and 50% if there is a Super Saiyan 1 or 2 Gohan on the team. I might be missing more because I don't have like the actual Reddit post up right now. Excuse me for that. I just wanted to talk about it though. So that's generally what he does. And so he would be amazing, like if he was ran on Gohan's team, if he actually got a buff from it. Like it's almost like they I don't know. I can't even guess what I think is going through their heads when they made this. What I can say is my biggest problem with this is that, like, this is a gacha game. And the whole point of a gacha game is to summon, pull units, and run the units that you summon for with your stones, with your own money, and run them the way that you want to run them. Not the way that the game wants you to run them, not the way that other players want you to run them. You're supposed to run your units the way that you want them to be run, because they're yours, they're in your box. You summoned for them, you know, and you finally got them. That should be your reward. after giving them the money. And here it's like, yes, we're going to take your money. Yes, we know that you guys are the cause of us getting all this success, but we're still going to make you run the Gohan and Cell how we want you to run the Gohan and Cell. We don't want you to see his transformation. We want to make you struggle to get him, because that's how it was in the series, which, of course, that always sucks. I can say with the past, whenever they've done units like these where the transformation conditions or their passives are similar to how the character actually is in the series, it was always put on them to restrict them instead of like help them. Like, they never do like these accurate to the series type things to give them a buff. It's always to restrict them and make them harder to run, and that's my main problem. But that's all I really got to say about this. Hopefully they change it. I'll be back in a few hours if they release anything. I'll also be coming back with some showcases on the unit, since I do have the change injection mod / private server, so I can showcase the Gohan untransformed and the Gohan transformed on his own without having to worry about the conditions. So if you excited for that, go ahead, give this a thumbs up and stay tuned for a few hours. Thanks, guys.